Hey, it's James from Active here with JC today, talking about some of the origins of the Active product line and how we got here. There are obviously a lot of pressure washers on the market, and we take a lot of pride in developing and designing these pressure washers from the ground up. And we use a lot of our experience from essentially 20 years of building pressure washers for different brands and different retailers around the world. And we kind of took a lot of those learnings and a lot of the things that we've always wanted to do but weren't able to, and took some of that design thinking and put them into, the Active branded line of product. We started with the VE51 and the VE52. The first unit that we put it in was the VE52, or what is now known as the VE52. And that was also different because we put what would be the most powerful pump and motor combination at the time into what we tried to make as the smallest package. Even still, since that product was built for retail, the retailer still wanted things such as hose storage, a place to put the gun, what else? A place to put the foam cannon and things like that. That unit, in its origins, was still built for, call it, mass retail. And that's why it had all that storage and stuff on it. And as you said, when that product became more popular and we started to find its niche, and when it came time to develop ground up for our own purposes, for the Active brand, we kind of took a really clean sheet approach and thought, what could this end up looking like?
I think I was probably even resistant to the idea because it wasn't really being done, especially in the world that we were familiar
Correct.
with. And this was like really kind of shattering the mold of how we did it. When we began the work on the 2.0, it was because the V52 was kind of clunky. The other decision we made was to really let everybody know about the 5-piston pump. We had it in the V52, but it was more of like a bullet point on the packaging or as one of the spec features. Whereas with the 2.0, we said, no, this is the first thing you're going to see.
It's a little bit of the behind the scenes. We had the opportunity to redesign the product. We put the pump front and center. It became part of the design language. Mm-hmm. So from just a cool point of view, it was front and center. We had the opportunity from a tooling and design point of view because we were redesigning the product from the ground up. But it really kind of set the stage and the direction for some of the next stuff, which is some of this commercial minded of the 2.3. So what was the design process like for the 2.0 and the 2.3? And I think it's important to illustrate this because there are a lot of different products that come out from a lot of different places in China. And there's sometimes the occasional criticism or note that this is a drop shipping product as we get more and more popular. But if you followed us to any degree, you'll know that this is truly ground up design, and you won't be able to find our product or pumps or patents anywhere else. We're very proud of that fact that we do design it, and we wanted to give you guys some insight into the process. We really like to think about first, obviously, is its function and where it kind of sits in kind of a product architecture. The second thing we like to think about is how it kind of integrates the features and comments and benefits that we receive from online or from kind of other competition in the market. And then third, we try to weave in some story around aesthetics. How do we make it look? Obviously for the Active brand, I think you've defined a very distinct aesthetic. But for other brands that we build for, we need to follow their brand guidelines and who they're trying to appeal to. I think that all kind of builds to our credibility in terms of wanting to build the best solution for our customers. I mean, you can talk a bit about kind of integration of the elements that or feedback we got from consumers as well.
We have an idea of who our customer is and how they're going to use it. That goes very much in partnership with the engineering, the refinement, the performance.
Probably not for most people, but we could spend hours getting to the minutia of inlet, outlet, material, failure points, different materials, how it impacts wear, longevity, performance, seals.
So really very high on my list. I need to think about how our users are going to be integrating our products into their work environment, whether it's a garage or a mobile setup.
Ideally, our product can help solve some of the problems people have when putting the product. And I can tell you that, as you said, a regular DIY pressure washer built at retail is just not going to be as easy to set up or as good to use as our product. Let's take a look at some of the concepts and how we kind of started the design process for the Active 2.0.
So at first on this project, we decided to give 3 concepts. This first one, I remember it was a very stripped down, almost just housing directly over top of the motor, giving it a bit of a foot on the ground and then a very minimal handle. At this point, we were still very much in that kind of DIY mode.
Retail
mindset. Where we had to think about, well, where's the hose going to go? Where's the cord going to go? We didn't have any accessories, but it was still
old habit.
It was a very old habit. Yeah. This next one, I guess it had just a bit more movement in it. It felt a little bit performance.
Yeah, it actually reminds me a bit of an automotive, almost like a vacuum.
Sure,
Look, this has got more of an appliance or tool feel as opposed to a hardware tool. This almost has like a...
And I think here what we were doing was this would flip down. The handle here would flip down, so you would get a further space reduction. And then this was concept number 3, just very stripped down. And I remember at the time being very influenced by these kind of cafe racer motorcycles and sort of
like
looking...
the fairing of the motorcycle.
Sure, yeah. The handle here was a strap, so it's flexible, so you could keep everything very, very small, very low. Ultimately, we felt that could be just a bit too risky. Fail, you could slip out of your hands or whatever. Obviously, this was the direction that we decided to move forward with, and we kind of refined it further. You remember the flexible handle? That was really early. Okay,
concepting.
Get rid of it. It wasn't feasible for a number of reasons. There was a tooling component that was difficult about it. Let's leave it. But you can see here, when we moved from this new pump, we didn't like the orientation of the inlet and outlet, because this was now facing the wall. One side would face the wall.
I think once we get to a stage where we kind of decide on the basic design direction and form factor, I think then that's when we start integrating some practical design solutions and really starting to refine the details of the product.
This is now the evolution of concept 3. We had the switch here on the front, which I loved.
Yes.
And it was so difficult for me to let this one go, because I thought the way your thumb was holding it, but as it turns out, the best, most reliable switch, it had a bit of a bulky box, and we just couldn't fit it in here, and we couldn't justify losing that much handle space, grip space. So the decision was made, it had to be moved to the top side of the body. Actually, ultimately, I think it's better for it.
And you'll see even in this iteration of the design, which is different than the first generation of design, you don't have the 5-piston pump kind of design front and center. This orientation, you have the pump inlet coming off of what is now the back of the unit. So you see the details kind of getting revised with each generation of product. Each stage of this process involves a lot of engineering, a lot of back and forth, a lot of trying different things and testing until you get to the final solution. And I want to make a last note. You'll notice on all the concepts, they were all labeled 1800. And I think that was kind of an old paradigm where all product is rated by its PSI. When we looked at the 2.0 and what our 5-piston pump was able to achieve, we wanted to put the emphasis on flow, and which is kind of how the name 2.0 came out. And so even to have a product not have PSI on the actual product itself is a huge departure for most, call it, pressure washers out there.
Everybody knows that the 1800 PSI, that number is really meaningless. But we knew that 2.0 GPM, that's something you can hang your hat on. Everyone can test that and get the same results. And it really spoke to the kind of transparency that we always wanted.
It's been 2 years plus since we started selling the 2.0, and I think we're very, very grateful and excited for the reception that the product's gotten. Really using this kind of design philosophy and having confidence to say, let's take this feedback from the market and really build products that really kind of are targeted towards that market. Well, thanks for watching the video on kind of how we came about with the 2.0. The success of the 2.0 and our future products are all based on the reception we get from our community. So thank you very, very much. And as always, please like and subscribe to our videos or ask us questions, leave feedback. All of that feedback is extremely valuable and helps to shape the next generation of product that we're designing here at Active.